Well, hello there. I am just looking to make a quick video about how to set up a controller for a game that's not designed to support it. Um, in my case, it's REPO. These principles should work with any other game that wants a keyboard and mouse setup that's designed for a keyboard and mouse only setup. And so you can take this and use it where you want. But first of all, to get the controller to show up here, you have to connect a controller. So until you do that, you will not have controller options. And now you'll load this up and you'll see, hey, look, controller not supported because I just connected my 8-bit DOE Ultimate. So I'm going to set this up as if there is no um, paddles, extra buttons, anything like that. Just what you'd have on any controller. So as you can see, I've already set one up. And there's actually quite a bit to it. There's actually two different controller sets that you can switch between with the down button right here. I'm going to show you how to do all that. Um, I guess for an overview, scroll wheels on the triggers, mouse buttons on the bumpers, and then I put the movement buttons on the face, movement and action buttons, and then obviously left stick is movement, right stick is aiming. And then the expressions will actually have two radial wheels, radial menus, to use to pick your expressions that have been added with the most recent updates. So how do we do that? Well, let's start with the virtual menus. So in order to use the expressions in this game, the best way to have your choice on the controller is to be able to select on a menu like this. This occurred to me because I played a game called Shadowrun. So let's open a new one. I played a game called Shadowrun where you can open a virtual menu like this to select your magic and cast it from it. So you never equipped a Tree of Life, you always just held the right bumper, hit to the right, and cast the Tree of Life immediately. You had to memorize where the spells were. Anyway, that's enough about that game. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you start after creating a radial menu. And so you can put in multiple commands, or you could put in just one, although that kind of defeats the purpose. But here we can just do, with it being repo, oh, that's the center button. Okay, don't really need a center button actually. So let's remove that command. And let's add a 5, a 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. Right there, that's it. Those are all your expressions. Now I like to pick a little face to tell me what each expression is, just as a quick reference. Actions, and we'll set this. So I'd use something like this for an angry face, just to tell me that's what that expression is. Okay, so, but this is the basic. Getting the button set up is the basic. You can actually load this up while you're playing a game to set it. I'm not going to do that right now. I might show that later. So now we have our secondary setup with tests and expressions. There is one more thing that you need to pay attention to in this setup, and that is when you want the button to release. So if you click on the settings next to the action and you go to settings, actually, hold to repeat is very helpful because that'll do it constantly. We don't want it to do it constantly though. We only want it to do it once. But depending on when you press the button, or let's see, general, that's how we get to it. So under general, we have the radio menu type button. Touch release means you will select which input you want down here with the wheel scrolling. And then when you let go of the stick, it will it will send that action. So what we're going to do instead, for repo, we're going to set it to continuous. That way, it will hit the button while you're on it and then stay. So you'll actually have a preview of the expressions. If you do it with touch release, with release, or with click, it'll only update it once and you won't actually get a preview. And that allows us to combine two faces into one, like you can do on this game. So that's it. That's all we need to do is set up that. And then here's actually a finalized one. I actually don't like that expression for that face. I don't know what that should be yet, though. We'll come back to that later. But now you have to set it up somewhere. And unfortunately, these virtual menus can only be assigned to joysticks or to D-pads. So, see, there's our expressions, there's our test. I could create a new one from here, create a new hotbar menu. I'm not going to bother with it. But now we need to figure out where to put it. And in order to fit the expressions on and still have access to a full range of motions, we're actually going to need a second set of actions available to us. So to set that up, we're going to learn about action sets. So an action set is simply another profile for your controller that you can cycle through. So if I have my default, I have my expressions, and I have my profile that I just set up, nothing is assigned. This is a brand new profile. Now I don't want to leave an empty profile on here because if I accidentally switch to this in some way, I'm going to get stuck not being able to do anything with my controller. But just to give you an idea, you have to actually set up each profile. So I had to copy the settings from my default profile over to the expressions profile so it can be controlled with only the joysticks changing. So from here to here, two different sets, default, expressions, triggers, same between expressions default, D-pad, default expressions, and you'll notice the change action changes because it's switching back to the other one. And then the buttons, expressions, default, nothing changes. So I don't want this profile on here. It's just going to get in the way. Get rid of that. But now that we have two action sets set up, I can go ahead and set up my default buttons. And this is the simple part. You just assign a key to what you want. One thing that I wish uh, more developers would do, you can actually assign multiple keys to this to a button. So for example, if I wanted for A to be the jump button and the menu button OK, I could set it to Command 1 is space key, which is jump. Command 2 is left mouse click, which on this game lets you select things in the menu. However, left mouse click is also grab and hold items. So I don't really want that. I might experiment with that so that you can actually hit A to select stuff, but I'm pretty used to having the left mouse click be the select button. The issue is though, I wish that developers would switch the OK select menu option to its own unique thing that's assignable apart from a game command, because I think that's kind of ridiculous that I can't select that. So for now, we're just going to remove that command. But you can set multiple commands to these. I'm not going to show that here. I'm going to show that here. Because under the triggers, in order to set the triggers so that they were actually fast enough to pull and throw items in this game, I had to assign multiple scroll wheels so that it would scroll fast enough. And so in order to set a scroll wheel to constantly move, you put it hold to repeat, and lowering this repeat rate makes it faster. It's as fast as it can go, which was not very fast. So in order to correct that, we put in a second command. We do the same thing, turbo, repeat rate, as fast as it can go. And then we increase the delay on this one to 25 milliseconds. So now there's 2 mouse wheels scrolling every time we hold this down with a 25 millisecond interval. And then same thing, command line 3, this one jumps up to 50, 49, something like that. And then this one jumps up to 74. So we do them in 25 millisecond intervals. This allows us to actually pull items in and out, scroll at a reasonable rate of speed. Although it is helpful to be able to scroll slowly. So we also have a secondary mode shift that we've set up here. You can set up a mode shift by trigger create mode shift. I'm not going to do it now because it stays there permanently. I can't figure out how to get rid of this if you don't want it. But then going into the settings of the mode shift, we can select a button that we can hold that will modify this trigger when we're holding this button. For me, I've got it on the right stick button, and all it is doing is doing the same scroll wheel, but just slower. I don't have it on turbo, so every time I want to push or pull an item, I have to hit it once individually, and so it'll move it out a click or move it in a click rather than moving it as if I'm holding the scroll wheel. And so that way I can just gently ease it out just as far as I want to set items down in this game. So that's super useful. And then obviously this left trigger is set up exactly the same way. That's all that's important. You can play around with some of these commands if you feel like it. Try to figure out maybe something that works better for you. The most important thing is to remember hold to repeat makes it continuous, and then this decreases speed all the way, or increases speed all the way down, decreases speed as it goes up. So I don't know that this toggle works either though. I can't ever seem to get this button to work. Toggle should just set it so that you hit it once and it's held, but I can't seem to make that work. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, and then I've also got a mode shift on my right stick click, which if we look at this, just decreases the mouse sensitivity. So instead of being 200% like it is on the original, it's 34% here. So when I'm not holding the stick in, I've got nearly 300% mouse sensitivity. When I hold the stick in, it drops down to 34%, so I can slowly rotate and set items down gently. So my right click is controlling an additional slow motion effect with this and with my triggers. And so then obviously stick is controlling movement, WASD, standard, click in for shift to run. So that's pretty straightforward. And then on the expressions, I have these set to the expression virtual menu we sent up earlier. So that's basically it. You might have to play around with this a little bit. Okay, and there's one more thing. For this game, inventory, I did 1 on the left, 2 on up, and 3 on the right because it makes more sense logically with where they're at on the screen. But then down is where I set the change action set. So again, these action sets are profiles for the controllers that shift between the different profiles that we need to control movement or expressions. And so on down, you can set it to change action set by, instead of clicking on one of these or one of these, to just hit a button. We have this action set section changed to action set, and we set it to the default because we're on expressions. And so whenever we hit down when we're on expressions, we change back to default. And whenever we hit down when we're on default, we change to expressions. So that's it. That's Now we have a way to control our character and to control their expressions quickly without ever having to take our hands off the keyboard.
Okay, here we are. I am going to show you how these controls work. So obviously this is movement, easy enough to figure out. This is acting as your mouse to look around. A is jump, spacebar, typical settings. B is crouch. I put it on control, some people put it on shift. I prefer having run on shift, which is clicking in on the stick. X is tumble, which makes it really easy to do Tumble Tech, because I just had to hit BAX while running. Look at that. And then I just hit X and B to get back up. So left mouse is left bumper. Real easy to remember. If I'd stop setting it to expressions. Left mouse is left bumper. It helps to do that with your index finger and save your secondary finger to use to scroll out, which, by the way, makes it easy to throw items. So that was why we set up so many of those turbo buttons. Right bumper is right click. Y, choose. Then 1, 2, 3 on the D-pad. 2, 3. And then tab is minus. I always set the map to toggle because I hate holding it. So that's kind of necessary on this too. And then the only other thing on here, aside from start being your menu, and then you have to use left click instead of A. If you hit A, it just won't do anything. The only other thing is the expression set, which we get by hitting down. We're switching back and forth between expression sets, and now both of my sticks are controlling their own expression menu. So I can pick one. That's not happy. That's a weird... I need to change that image. But you can see that each of these sticks has a separate expression wheel, so I can actually use them in combination with one another. For instance, I like this one. Or this one. Or this one. As opposed to just full-on surprise. So this makes it very easy because you can get a preview of what you want before you select it. And so you just select what you want. And you let go of both. And then we hit down again to go back to controlling. And if we hit down again, we're back on expressions. I have down set on a paddle too, so I keep hitting it by accident. But it does make it very quick. Okay, hope that helps. And yeah, you can obviously use this in other settings that are keyboard and mouse only, other games. Adjust the setting as needed. You should have everything here you need to figure it out. Thanks.